The WAFB Podcast Network is sponsored by Neighbors Federal Credit Union.
Hey, good morning, Jacques. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm talking to Garth Brooks.
Entering his second year as the LSU head football coach.
It was the only way I could get a foot in the door.
Joined by the icon, Kim Mulkey. Ace Coach, great to see you.
Jacques Talk is sponsored by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp and Kuyon's Cajun Barbecue.
Welcome into another edition of Jacques Talk, and this week we have a guy who actually played the game. We've had a lot of media hosts like myself who never did anything in sports. This guy, on the other hand, you know him well from Parkview Baptist. He had a great LSU career from 2005 through 2008, of course, including the 2007 National Championship and the win over Ohio State in the Superdome. Darry Beckwith. Darry, thanks for coming down.
Pleasure. They say you don't make it until you come on Jacques Talk. So I guess I've made it.
Yeah. Well, that is money well spent on my part for you to say that. But I really appreciate it. And thanks for being here today. And you played for Kenny Guillotte at Parkview Baptist, the late, great Kenny Guillotte. How many state titles did you win?
So I won one state title my freshman year. Didn't play that much, but I have won. And then my junior year, we got close. We lost to Notre Dame of Crowley in the semifinals on the last play of the game. Yeah. And every time I would see Coach Guillotte, he would get so upset because he thought we could have won one my junior year. He always apologized. But I have won as a freshman. Then obviously when I leave, they reel off like 4 or 5 in a row. So I guess my team, I wasn't that good, but they did a tremendous job. He turned that program around and kept it going.
Well, I guess Kenny Guillotte isn't different from, say, Nick Saban. Skip Burtman would talk about Nick Saban and said, he might have won 7 national championships, but I lost those 3. The ones that he lost, the ones that you lose sometimes bother you more than you're excited about the ones that you won. So Guillotte remembered that, huh?
It does. It bothered him forever. When I go back and visit and talk to the kids, he would always bring up that my junior year in the semifinals against Notre Dame.
How many times have Parkview Baptist and Notre Dame met up over the years in a significant football game in November or December?
Oh, a lot. I remember we did a game this year. Southside played Notre Dame. I had an opportunity to speak to Coach Cook, and he still remembered that game back in 2003. And he says to this day, obviously, Louis Cook has been coaching for 50-plus years. He said that was probably the most well-coached and well-played game he's ever been a part of. And he said there was always some battles between Notre Dame and Parkview.
That's a huge compliment to you, I'm sure, and to Parkview Baptist there. Louis Cook, I hope he coaches till he's 100. I mean, he coached Jake Delhomme, I believe, as the Raging Cajuns quarterbacks coach, and I think he might have been the offensive coordinator in the early 90s there. That's over 30 years ago. So he's been doing it a long time.
He has. I think he will coach to 100. It doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon.
Oh, hey, I'm all for it. What else am I going to do, right? I can't see Louis Cook playing golf, but maybe I'm wrong. All right, so LSU football, they've started 4-1 on the season. You would have hoped they would be 5-0 at this point. They've played 2 games that could have gone either way. The game against USC did not go their way. The game at South Carolina did go their way. So now they got a bye, and then Ole Miss comes to town. How are you feeling about LSU right now?
I think they're in a good spot right now. Obviously, I think with all the preseason hype, people expected us to be ranked a little bit higher. The USC game couldn't win either way. Jacques, if you would have told me before the game that we would have held a Lincoln Riley offense, I'm going to say 20 points, even though they scored 27, but those 7 points were at the end of the game. Yeah. If you told me that we would have held his offense to 20 points, man, I would have bet everything on LSU to win that football game. Obviously, a few turnovers that didn't go our way. We had a couple fumbles that we didn't get. If we would have got one of those fumbles, I think we would have won that football game. But also, that game, too, was an opportunity to probably – even though we lost the game, I think it turned out to be pretty good because now, as the coaching staff probably realized certain guys that they needed to play. Yeah. When you have a first game like that, these coaches get so, I guess, scared and maybe they don't want to pull a trigger on a young guy. But you see a guy like now, Caden Durham, who's a running back, who's emerging. I'm pretty sure he could have helped you against USC. The back end with Deshaun Spears playing safety as a true freshman, pretty sure he could have helped you So even though we lost the game, I think now they're realizing some of these young guys and young guns that we have are going to help us win ball games.
Yeah, and I don't know if it matters when you lose, but they're talking about Ole Miss, for example. You know, it was like, I guess Rocky III is a little bit before your time. But when Rocky won the belt over Apollo Creed, then he was fighting a bunch of fighters that were weak, and then Clubber Lang, Mr. T, steps in and knocks him out. So when you're Ole Miss and you're kind of knocking out some tomato cans, and then Kentucky comes in and gives you a wake-up call, I don't know if it matters if you lose the first game or the fourth or whatever, but at least LSU, hopefully you would hope they continue to get better. And if you look at the way LSU's played lately, they're coming off their best game. South Alabama, they played very well on both sides of the ball, at least in the first half, dominant win.
And one thing about that game of South Alabama, I cannot stand, actually I hate the word get-right game. Yeah. There's no such thing as a get-right game because people fail to realize those guys on the other team have scholarships as well. And if you don't come ready to play, if you don't come prepared, you're not focused, South Alabama can beat you. But for me, LSU came out and played a complete game, offense, defense, and special teams. I think special teams is a factor that every week, including myself, we always leave out. We always talk about offensive scheme, defensive scheme, but special teams is so important. I think they're doing well on special teams. Garrett Nussmeier is continuing to get better. Obviously, he's taking care of the ball. That was probably one of my things going into the year. Like, man, is he going to be able to take care of the ball? He has. I know he threw a bad interception against South Alabama, and Brian Kelly let him have it. But I think offensively they're doing well, and defensively, Blake Baker is creating opportunities for these guys to get after a quarterback, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, you mentioned the special teams game. Xavier Thomas obviously has given them a big lift in the kick return game, which has been kind of dull for LSU in recent years. I mean, you played with Trendon Holiday and guys like that, right? I mean, the explosive plays in the kicking game. And, Garrett Nussmeier threw 2 interceptions this past game. But, look, when you're up 35-3 at the half, I mean, I'm not making excuses for him, and neither was Brian Kelly. But you lose your edge a little bit, and you throw some balls that, okay, well, if this is picked off, maybe it's not a big deal or not. But I guess what Brian Kelly was doing was telling him, we're going to be playing Ole Miss, we're going to Arkansas, we're going to Texas A&M, we're playing Alabama. You can't make these mistakes in those games.
It's easy to create bad habits, and it's hard to create good habits. So by him throwing those 2 interceptions, where Brian Kelly was telling him, if you keep this up, you're creating a bad habit. And obviously when you play Ole Miss, you play Arkansas, or anybody in SEC for that nature, you cannot make those mistakes.
And like you said, this game against South Alabama had the potential to be a lot more interesting than what it was. I mean, South Alabama had scored 87 points on Northwestern State, which I'm like, the sportsmanship deal. I mean, at one point, right, when you hit 70, it's kind of – now, I heard they had a running clock the last 6 minutes of the game. That's how bad it got. But then they went to Appalachian State, did South Alabama, and scored 48. So they came in with a red-hot offense. LSU's defense highly improved from last year, but still giving up some bust. So I thought it was very impressive that the first 7 times South Alabama got the ball, they only had 1 field goal. And we heard a lot about this Fluff Bothwell running back. He had 5 carries for 4 yards the first 5 times he got it. So LSU's defense with Whit Weeks kind of leading the way was very impressive.
It was. And again, I think Blake Baker is doing an outstanding job of putting these guys in position to be successful each level, D linemen, linebackers, and in the secondary as well. And what he's doing, he's moving guys around, creating pressure. You know, people talking about Whit Weeks. I always compare Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins as the same player. Before everybody goes crazy and say, like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins are the same player in a sense. They are downhill players. You have to get them moving downhill. And I know there was a whole issue with Harold Perkins with him playing off the ball linebacker in the box. If they stand still and you tell them just to read and react, they struggle a little bit. But for instance, against South Alabama, the plays that Whit Weeks made, guess what Blake Baker had him doing? Moving downhill, blitzing in the A-gap, whatever they may be. So when you have Whit Weeks moving and being active, he's going to make plays. And same thing with Harold Perkins. It's unfortunate that he tore his ACL, but a player like that, you have to give those guys moving downhill to make plays, and that's what Blake Baker is doing.
Yeah, certainly don't want to sell Greg Penn short because he led LSU in tackles. He had 14 tackles on the night. Whit Weeks, it seemed like his plays might have been a little louder, including that goal line stand in the third quarter. LSU's up 35-3 at the half. South Alabama third quarter drives right down the field, 35-10. LSU's driving. That's when Nussmeier throws the second pick. And then South Alabama could have made it a 35-17 game, but on the fourth down, I think Major Burns was around the ball also. But Gio Lopez, the quarterback for South Alabama, his helmet flew off. He got hit so hard. And Brian Kelly said, I don't know if South Alabama gets back in the game, but that ended the game when they stopped him there.
Oh, absolutely. Every possession is key. I think anytime you can make a play like that, it's very crucial in the game because you don't want to give people opportunity to get in the ball game. Alabama thought they had the game won in the first half. Georgia comes back, takes the lead. So every possession counts. And like I said earlier, these guys are on scholarship as well. They're not going to quit. They're not going to give up.
Major Applewhite, of course, the former Catholic High quarterback, was having a homecoming of sorts. I saw that he was at the Catholic High West Monroe game on Friday that Catholic High won pretty easily. They acknowledged him before the game. He waved to the crowd and everything. But he's been a great offensive mind wherever he's been. He's kind of like Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere, man. He's been to Syracuse. He's been to Houston. He's been to Alabama. And now he's at South Alabama. He's been all around the country, either as a head coach or an assistant coach. But Blake Baker and company, they were ready.
He did. Yeah, they were. Like, these guys put up points. I don't care who you playing. Anytime you score 87 points, that's a lot of points. And then they go to App State, who's a great program, and then blow them out the water as well. So they're well prepared to stop this offense. They have some momentum going. Anytime an offense has confidence and momentum, they're hard to stop. Yeah. So for me and Blake Baker to come out and do what he did shows vast signs of improvement from this LSU's defense.
Yeah, and we understand what it is too. Like Darry, for example, he played in non-conference games that, when LSU fans are sitting on their porch having a couple beers talking about the great games of old, no one in 5 years ago, remember when we beat South Alabama? That was a big one,
Right.
You, for example, 2007, Virginia Tech comes in.
Yeah.
You guys play almost a perfect ball game.
Right.
I saw a fan the other day. I think they put him up on the Jumbotron. He was a long-time season ticket holder, and I think he said, the most perfect game I ever saw LSU play here was Virginia Tech in 07.
It was. And it's crazy that you say that because even while you're in the game, Jock, you can feel it's a perfect game. You can feel that you're reading all your keys right. You can feel as a linebacker, you're dropping in the right zone. Offensively, everything was clicking, and that was a top 10 matchup. And so for them to come in and for us to beat them, I think 40-7, they scored on the last play of the game. I think Tyrod Taylor did a quarterback sneak for a touchdown.
Yeah.
That made us mad, but that was darn near a perfect game in every facet of the game. Then Keelan Williams with the outstanding run on the option play.
Yeah.
So it was an outstanding game and a great atmosphere.
Y'all even put Paraloo in the game late, and he suckered the defense and then stepped back and early do-set, long touchdown pass.
Yeah, he did.
I remember as well. And that game really got you into the national championship game. If you're playing a cream puff there in the old BCS, the fact that Virginia Tech, a very strong program. Frank Beamer, Shane's father.
Yeah.
That was huge for 07's team.
It was, and we opened up the season on Thursday night against Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And then we had to follow it with Virginia Tech. So I know people are saying, man, we need to open up what's might a little bit easier next time. But, hey, you know what? Yeah, it's up to the coaches and up to the players to get prepared for those first games of the season. So, obviously, fans want to see a great game. But also when you lose against the USC or you lose against Florida State 2 years in a row, you kind of want to revert back. Man, we need somebody easier. No, get prepared and play.
Craig Stelz and his beautiful blonde hair, 3 picks against Mississippi State, right?
He did.
On that Thursday night game. Yeah, it's always the thing that you're not doing that fans want. I'm not taking a shot at fans, but I always heard for the longest time, we're tired of playing these cream puffs to open the year. We want the big game.
Right.
In which, for a while, LSU won the big game. The Oregon in 2011, the TCUs, they played North Carolina one year, these big openers. And then you start losing them, like LSU's lost every one since 2020. They haven't won a season opener since Joe Burrow.
I know.
In 19. So now they're saying, well, we need a warm-up game or a week 0 or all that. And so I don't think that's going to change. LSU's opening with Clemson next year over there.
I know.
In the other Death Valley.
I know.
So we'll see what happens a year from now. But, yeah, and LSU's played 3 home games so far against Nicholls, UCLA, and South Alabama. These are not the games that the season ticket holder are drooling over. The Ole Miss coming up, the Alabama, Oklahoma's never been to Tiger Stadium, I don't think. So these are your big Tiger Stadium games, and then maybe the ladies can start to wear some fall clothes. It'll be a little cooler, right? That's kind of the essence of football season when you get into October.
It is. In October, that's what champions are made. It's not about those early games. September, October, that's when you kind of put your team together and you realize who you are. You have your identity on all three phases of the ball. Offense, defense, and special teams has their identity. You kind of know the guys that you're going to play. And so when you get to October, it's big-time football. It's big boy football. And I think from a fan's perspective, reason they're saying, okay, we can open up with somebody easier because the SEC is so doggone hard. And so you're going to have a tough schedule regardless. But at the end of the day, man, you got to go out and strap it up and play.
I just had a Les Miles flashback. Offense, defense, special teams. He used to say that at press conferences all the time. The holy trinity of football, I'd call it. Offense, defense, special teams. And before we moved to the offensive side of the ball, defensively, like this D-line was supposed to be or could have been a disaster because of the guys who left. Like they were hoping Mason Smith would come back. He goes pro. Mekhi Wingo goes pro. They miss on some portal guys. But your Ahmad Bros and some others have emerged, and if you're not noticing it, then maybe it's not really a problem. And I haven't really noticed it as much as I thought I might.
Well, Bo Davis, the D-line coach, you got to give him a lot of credit as well. He's doing an outstanding job. He's a great recruiter, but also he demands a lot. Bo Davis was a GA my freshman year at LSU, and even as a GA, he demanded a lot from those defensive linemen. Everywhere he's been, his D-line has always been good. And obviously, like you said, Ahmad Bro, even McKinney, the true freshman from Acadiana, has been playing great ball. And then Braden Swinson has added an extra boost to that defense. Anytime that you can get pressure on the quarterback from your D lineman or your outside linebacker, it's always a plus because now you take that pressure off of your secondary.
Well, no one is going to say that Kevin Peoples is overrated as the edge coach because I think Coach Kelly called him the best in the country, and obviously your Savion Jones and, like you said, Swinson. Those guys have been racking up a lot of quarterback sacks so far this year. So he's obviously done a very good job. Coaching can be a big difference, can it?
Coaching is all the difference. I think the other day I was talking to someone, and we put so much onus on what the football player is not doing. I don't think people realize, like, that guy doesn't want to go out there and miss a tackle. That guy doesn't want to go out there and miss a throw. It's up to the coaches. Like, they only can do as much as their physical and mental capacity takes them. It's up to the coaches to make sure that they put them in a proper position to be successful. It's up to the coaches to realize what's Jock athletic ability. It's a lot, Jock. Give yourself credit. What's Jock's mental capability on the field? And so it's up to the coaches to put them in a position to be successful because these kids are going out there, blood, sweat, and tears, and putting their all out on the field every single Saturday. And it's not like, oh, man, I missed that block. Oh, I missed my read. They didn't do it on purpose, but it's also up to the coaches to put them in a position to be successful. That's why I think Blake Baker is doing a good job because we still are, talent-wise, we still are limited a little bit on defense. Even in the secondary, we're not as fast in the secondary. The corners and safeties, but he's doing a good job of mixing up and putting these guys in position where their physical attributes are taking them, and he's doing a better job. A lot more improved than last year.
I might be able to take on some fourth graders. That might be the ceiling of my athletic ability. A guy didn't make it past 8th grade football, but that's a great point. And look, your Major Burns, your Sage Ryans, they've taken some grief from the fans, and they've gotten burned, and that's part of it. But they've hung in there. Yeah. They're still there, and I think they're getting better.
All right, let me tell you something. I don't know if anybody's ever played free safety or safety at all. If you have a guy that's a 6'2", 215-pound receiver that runs a 4.4, and he's coming you full speed, now playing safety, you're flat-footed. That's tough. And it works on every level. People want to blame a safety for getting burnt. But if that cornerback, for instance, against USC, end of the game in the fourth quarter, when that guy made that incredible catch on the sideline and put USC in position, they're in a cover 2 defense. Sage Ryan didn't get a hand on the receiver as a cornerback. Gave the receiver a free release. Yeah. When you give a receiver a free release, the safety does not have no time to get over top.
Right.
Sage Ryan gets a hand on him. It gives a safety time to get over top and make a play. And so it's every person has to do their job. When you see a guy on TV, they call it when you see the back of their number, they're getting burnt. It's not a good thing. But sometimes also it's the guy that was in front of him that didn't do his job and may have put them in a bad position as well.
Didn't jam them. Right?
Exactly, yep.
On the offensive side of the ball, like you mentioned, look, Josh Williams, they need him. And I think Josh Williams will be president of the United States one day. Yeah. For as smart as he is with his 3.7 GPA and everything he's done at LSU and been a very valuable part of that football team. Caden Durham, at least through these first 5 games, has proven he's the most explosive option back there. I mean, 71-yard catch and run on the first play of the game for a touchdown. Next time they give him the ball, it's an 86-yard jaunt. We joked the third time he only got 10 yards. He was really getting held up there. But he touches the ball 10 times for 217 yards, a pair of touchdowns. He hurt his foot, but Coach Kelly after the game said it's not serious. He's a true freshman. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of a you got to be careful with that? Like, I'm sure he's a mature kid and everything,
right.
But he's the best guy, but then you don't want him getting too big of a head too soon. And how would you manage that?
You play him.
He's the best player. Play him.
He's the best running back that we have, and it's not rocket science, Doc.
Yeah.
The guy ran a 10-3 in high school. Like I don't care what you have to do, even against USC. If you don't think he's ready, which in my mind, he was ready, just get on the field and do something. Here's a toss sweep. Here's a jet sweep, something to get the ball in his hands. Trenton Holiday, we didn't worry about Trenton's size, but Jimbo Fisher and Gary Croton realized, wait a minute, this is one of the fastest human beings in the country. Let's just get him the ball. And I think sometimes as coaches, we overthink things. He's the best back that we have. And Brian Kelly did make a point one time where we were struggling running the football because the offensive lineman wasn't getting their blocks. But at some point, the running back has to be able to make a play. And so when you have a talented running back like Caden Durham, he can get those extra yards or he can make the extra cut, even if the old lineman does miss a block. And that's something he's able to do. Even though he's a track guy, he's very slippery, he has great balance, and he's strong between the tackles. And I'm looking forward, even you can use Xavier Thomas at a running back, Aaron Anderson, all those guys have those attributes. There's so much that you can do with this offense. I still don't think they have reached their full potential yet, which is scary, and it's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, and Caleb Jackson hasn't emerged like we thought he would. Mm-hmm. He's still a young player. He's only in his second year, and I think he took up football kind of late, or still in high school. He was learning the game and whatnot. And Hunt Palmer was here a week ago and said the things that LSU does on offense maybe don't really lend to Caleb Jackson's skill set. He'd work better with your head coach, Les Miles, right?
Right.
The big physical,
right.
That guy. But I don't know if he's put on too much weight, if 235 was too big, or what's happening there. But obviously, let's see, he did get 7 carries for 19 yards this past weekend, so he did get 7 carries, which was the same Caden got.
Yep, I think for him, 235 is too big, especially in today's game with the RPO offenses. He needs to drop about 10 to 15 pounds and probably get back to his freshman weight. Even as a freshman year, you saw glimpses as a freshman because he had a little bit more wiggle. Mm-hmm. And right now, I think his issue is vision. He's missing holes. He's running straight downhill and missing holes. And I could be wrong, but I feel like he think he can run over everyone. And you can't do that, especially in SEC play. So he needs to drop a little bit more weight, I think, and then work on his vision. And I never count any kid out. You can make proper adjustments and get better. And so, at some point down this year, we can 5 games down the line, we can say, man, Caleb Jackson help us win this football game. So sure. I think if he drops some more weight, work on his vision, he'll be all right.
Well, you ran over that guy last year in Starkville.
Yeah.
And everyone just, that was like flies to a light, right? I mean, everyone just make him the starter. He needs to start just because he ran over. And look, it was a real impressive play, and he depleted the guy. But, there's more to it encompassing than that. But, yeah, like you said, it's a long season, and you can never have too many running backs.
No.
Hard to keep those guys healthy, too.
It is. Like Caden Durham got a foot injury. You don't know the extent of it. I don't think it's serious, but you always want to have depth at that position.
What do you make of Garrett Nussmeier through 5 games?
Impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive. I think I personally, coming to the year, like I told you earlier, I was worried about his turnovers. Because even last year when he would get in some spot duty, he would just throw it all over the field like a Brett Favre, just a gunslinger. And sometimes he'll throw it to the right man, sometimes he wouldn't. Yep. And even during training camp, I would see snippets in different articles well, Garrett threw 2 interceptions a day, or he threw 1. It was like every day, and that kind of worried me. But again, it's practice, and that's why you practice. But coming into this season, he has performed at a high level, extremely smart. He's taking care of the football. Not only you have quarterbacks that are game managers and quarterbacks that can win you games, he's both. And what I mean by that, he takes care of the ball. He takes what the defense gives him. He can throw a short route to intermediate. He can throw the deep ball. He made a couple of throws against South Alabama. I know one, a seam route to Mason Taylor over 2 defenders, which is incredible.
Yeah.
It's an NFL throw. So Garrett Nussmeier, he's on an upper trend, and he's playing with confidence. So for me, he's going to continue to play like that. Because once a guy, especially a quarterback, gets that level, it's just like a Kobe Bryant or LeBron James or Michael Jordan. Once they get in the zone, it's hard to get out. So right now he's in that zone. So I don't foresee him getting out of that zone.
His arm talent is special. I mean, he can make all the throws. There's no noodle arm, like he can't make that throw. We're not going to call that. Certainly we see that, all the tight windows that you mentioned and so forth. And he ran for 2 touchdowns this week. He said, I've never done that maybe in high school. I don't know.
And I would like them to use his feet and legs a little bit more, because Garrett can run. He just chooses not to, but I think if they add a little more RPO, that can be another advantage for this offense as well.
He can run, but can he dance? Did you see his dance?
The Dougie? He did the Dougie. Actually, it was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I can't dance, but he did a good job. He did.
What'd you make of the jerseys? You like white on white there? Or
I did. You know what? I like the combination of white helmets, white jerseys, and white pants. They did that one year. I love that combination. So if they were the white helmets, it would have been, I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
White helmets would have been a 20 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Was that the Ole Miss game that LSU played in 2015? I think they wore all white, maybe white helmets too. That was a nightmare game. They got drilled. That was when thought Les Miles was going to get fired. Remember, they lost to Alabama, they lost to Arkansas, and then they lost to Ole Miss, and then they beat Texas A&M at the end, and he kept his job. But I remember they're all white that day. Yeah. Traven Durrell got hurt. Brandon Harris threw a ball high in the end zone, and I think Durrell's cleats got stuck in the turf or something. He had a bad injury that day. Anyway, sorry for story time and going back into the here's your media guide right here. This loser right here can probably recite a lot of this stuff. But anyway, Garrett's he played very well. And in the interceptions, he threw 2 at South Carolina. Well, one got called back because they horse collared him,
right.
And the second one, the guy hit him. Would have been a pick 6 late in the game. But his interceptions have not been consequential.
No.
The one at the end of the USC game, they were desperate, and that doesn't
right.
really count. So, and this game, like we said, they were up big. So now we'll see how they fare down the stretch here. The wide receivers, look, there's perhaps not a Malik Neighbors out there, but collectively they're doing the job.
They are. I think a guy like Karen Lacey has emerged this year. Then you have Aaron Anderson, who's done a phenomenal job at the slot receiver. So they're doing a good job of mixing guys, and they're distributing the ball to all 3 or 4 wide receivers. Then Mason Taylor, having him as an option as probably one of the best tight ends in the country is something that you cannot forget about, because anytime that you need to go to somebody, whether it's a dub down, Mason Taylor's always there to make a play. He's reliable. So they're doing a good job. Even Xavier Thomas, they get him in the passing game as well. Kyle Parker, obviously getting to the passing game. So these guys are doing an outstanding job. I think they're running their routes the way they're supposed to run their routes. And Cortez Hankton is doing an outstanding job with this receiving core. Yeah.
And it's not a slight on Jaden Daniels. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about Jaden Daniels, who I joked today, college basketball teams would like to shoot free throws the way he's completing passes right now. He's 21 out of 23 against the Bengals. He's 26 out of 30.
That's crazy.
The next week, yesterday against Arizona. But Nussmeier looks for Mason Taylor more. I mean, he's definitely utilizing him more than Jaden did in the past, although Jaden hit him from that 2-point conversion to beat Alabama. But we saw in the bowl game, I think Mason caught 7 passes in the bowl game, and he's on pace to have a really good season. Right. You played with Dixon.
I did.
Richard Dixon, who at the time was the all-time leading receiver as a tight end at LSU.
Right.
Went from 82 to 18.
He did.
That was a funny story. He told, in the national championship, he wore 82, catches 2 passes. 2 touchdown passes against Ohio State. So back home, some company buys a bunch of his jerseys, 82, for him to autograph. Then he changes to 18 the next year.
Oh,
and
wow.
they're like, dang it, what are we going to do with these 82s? So anyway, but what do you – so Mason, he's special.
He is. I think a guy, 6'5", 6'6". You can flex him out. He's a mismatch problem to any defense, meaning that a linebacker is too slow and a nickel cornerback is too small. And you can't double him, because if you try to double him, you have a kind of lazy as well that can go make plays.
This offensive line, early in the year, they were kind of maligned a bit. We talked them up, and rightfully so. I mean, there's 2 first-rounders on there at least with, Will Campbell and Emory Jones. There's great veterans there with Miles Frazier, Garrett Dellinger. The center's new, DJ Chester. He's a freshman. But Coach Kelly said after the game the other night, now they're getting looks that they can run the ball, as opposed in the past he said people were stacking the box. I still look back and say, okay, Nicholls State, I thought you'd have a run longer than 12 yards against Nicholls State, especially when the other guy, Guggenheim, breaks it for 70 against you. But, we'll see how what the running game looks like, because I heard Charles Hannegger talking about this. You don't want to get into a shootout with Ole Miss, right?
No.
You want to kind of hold the ball, rest your defense, frustrate them, keep them on the sideline. So how do we go about playing Ole Miss?
So for Ole Miss offensively, you do want to hold on to the ball as much as possible, but you don't want to limit yourself. You don't want to limit yourself taking the deep shots. You don't want to play to like, sometimes you can play to and still lose the game. You want to play to win the football game. So you still have to go out there and let Gary Nussmeier do his thing. And you do have to have a running game. You have to have some type of running game. And I think preseason we did think this is going to be the best offensive line unit because of the 2 tackles, your preseason All-Americans. But what you fail to realize, a lot of run plays are not going to be off the edge. A lot of those run plays are in the meat of your defense, your guard, your center, and your guard. And so, obviously, those guys were unable to get a push like they were able to. And so, you still have to run the football. I think with Caden Durham now being the running back, they have some type of running game because he can do so many things. He can catch the ball at the backfield. He can be elusive. So, I think now they're finding their groove because they found their running back. And so, when you find your running back, you can find your groove. So, I wouldn't so much try to say, man, keep the ball in Ole Miss hands. No, go score points.
Yeah.
Go do what you have to do to make sure that you win this football game.
Yeah, you're playing at home too. I mean, you've got the home crowd on your side. Looking back, all the way back to the USC game, I think LSU was up 17-13 in the fourth quarter, and they had the 3rd and 1, and Emory got stuffed, and that's a huge play in the game because LSU punts back, USC takes the lead, and that LSU could have, if they would have held the ball, kind of taken control of the game, taken a double-digit lead. And, they blow up that 3rd and 1, and it didn't happen.
Right.
So that's just something to look back on. So down the stretch here, any other things that we should talk about when it comes to LSU? We're in this new era too, right? You were talking about Aaron Anderson. He started at Alabama. He came to LSU. I guess there are some players that would have transferred again after the season he had last year, but that's a good story that he stuck with it and he listened to his coaching and he got motivated and he's improving now. What do you make of this new era of football where they mention a guy and they say, oh, okay, he came from Alabama, or he was at Texas A&M last year, or he was, it makes it interesting, but it does kind of make it, it tugs away at the fabric of team.
I think, first off, either in this environment of new college football, you either have to adapt or you die.
Yeah.
So if you don't like it, you better learn to like it, or you better have strategies to make sure that you do like it. And if you love it, obviously you're going to continue to push forward and make it right. I think number one, the transfer portal is a situation where I think they can have like a limitation on the transfer portal or when guys can do it. Because I always look at it this way, right? And I've gone back and forth with this, even we have these group texts with my friends. Like, we know all the answers, correct? But I've gone back and forth, and at the end of the day, even being an adult right now, like, I have a family, and so you always want to do what you think is best for you, because a coach at the end of the year, he can recruit guys all year long, and I can tell you, hey, Jock, we're gonna have a great career together. We're gonna win championships, and I get you here as a freshman. Then at the end of the year, I go take another job that pay me more money and gives me a better opportunity, a better situation. So that's how I look at the transfer portal, meaning that at the end of the year, if a guy plays well enough and he sees another opportunity to go do something better, then he needs to go do that. Now, the whole situation about a guy not playing and then redshirting in the middle of the year because I'm not playing, I'm in the transfer portal, that I don't like too much, because now we talked about the habits. You're creating a bad habit. Jock, you're the strong safety. I'm going to say you're 6'2", 215, Jock.
Oh, thank you so much. I wish. Give me one day at 6'2", 215.
Yeah, you're 6'2", 215.
That's John Eads. I think he's 220, actually. But anyway.
Fourth game of the year, you're upset that you're not playing, so I'm going to redshirt. I'm just going to redshirt, and I'm going to transfer it in the portal. That's creating a bad habit, because let me tell you something. When you get done playing football and you're on your job, whatever it is that you're doing, you can't walk up to your boss and say, you know what, I think I'm a redshirt and transfer. There's no transferring. So I think that has to get control, because the guy is frustrated because he's not playing. Well, I'm just going to sit out for the rest of the year. I don't agree with that. I do agree if a guy performs all year long and he puts himself in a position to do something better and better himself,
right,
I have no issue with that, because a coach does the same thing.
Right. I think it gets dangerous, too, when you got a freshman coming in who hasn't accomplished anything yet, and you give him a lot of money, and if things aren't going well, he can bounce, and leave. And so, the jersey sale thing, I mean, certainly I think those guys deserve, lots of Leonard Fournette number 7s were sold, Tyrann Matthews, number 9 Burrow, and those guys never saw a sin of it. Ben Simmons made a point to make it clear that when he was here that one year playing basketball, all those 25s,
he did,
23, 25, whatever, got sold, and he didn't see any of that money. So it's a different time for sure. And so you can catch Darry. You're a broadcaster now.
Yep.
You do the Ronnie Rance thing. He's very lucky to have you on Saturday morning.
Is that an inside joke?
No. I catch you on there sometimes. Them and Joel Davis. And, you listen to that show. We're here, we're there, we're here, we're there. So you got to pay attention. It's a great show. Sports Shorts Radio, 10 to noon.
It's either 10 to noon, 9 to 11. It can be in the afternoon. Just look for us on Twitter before the show. You're gonna see what time we come.
Saturday morning, put on 104.5 ESPN.
Yes, absolutely.
Before noon, you'll catch him.
Absolutely.
So you're doing that, and you're doing like high school broadcasts as well.
Yes, on Thursday and Friday nights.
All right. I'm trying to think. What should I talk to you about your career before I let you go? So you were here 05 to 08,
right?
07 team. So I guess we're in the year 2000. 2027 is right down the street. That's going to be 20 years.
That's crazy, Doc. and the crazy thing about it is, like, when I see former teammates now, I saw Craig Stelz last week. I did the Rummel and Archbishop Shaw game. Obviously, Craig Stelz went to Rummel, and he had 2 little girls that were like cheerleaders for Rummel, like little bitty girls, so they had like a little thing for him at halftime.
Yeah.
And every former teammate that I see, we have the same answer. Man, how you doing? Wife and working, family and working. That's everybody's answer, family and working. So it's always good to see those guys. And 2027 is 20 years, but it's so crazy because I can still go back to every game from 2005, 2008. If you tell me a specific game, I pretty much remember every play.
Well, 05, that was Les Miles' first year taking over for Nick Saban, a loaded roster.
Yes.
But some circumstances that were once in a lifetime, I wouldn't call them once in a lifetime, but in Katrina's case, kind of a once in a lifetime hurricane. Then Rita comes in right after it. You guys are moving games around. You were supposed to play North Texas at home to start the year. You're going and then you were supposed to play Arizona State at home too. So you're opening the year at Arizona State in the desert.
On the road. We found out that Wednesday that we had to travel all the way to Arizona that Wednesday.
I was there. Vicky Zimmerman was like, "You want to do what?" I'm like, "We got to cover the game. It's the season opener." And I did Sportsline Friday night. I drove to Houston, Texas. I got up early in the morning, a flight from Houston to Phoenix, and covered that game that night. And 4th and 10, Jamarcus Russell throws the touchdown to Early Doucette.
Yep. In the corner end zone.
My distant cousin, Early Doucette. Yeah. I joke with Early sometimes. Did you really catch that ball? I think you kind of rolled over it. No, I caught it. So he said the ref said touchdown.
Right. Touchdown. So that was an incredible time, fun time, and then we had to come around and play Tennessee on a Monday night because of Rita came through. We were up 21-0 at the half.
Yep.
And they came back in the ball game, and I think that's the first time Les Miles realized how crazy LSU fans are because they had for sale signs in front of the door.
Well, they sometimes say that a first impression is not accurate. When it comes to Les Miles, the first impression was very accurate because that first game was so wild. You guys were losing, I think, 20-7 or something. Two special teams touchdowns. You blocked the punt, blocked the field goal. This wild game. You faked a punt out of your own end zone. Ronnie Prude threw a pass to. Or Chris Jackson threw a pass to Ronnie Prude.
Either Mario Stevenson, I think he threw. It's one of those guys, one of those DBs he threw a pass to. Yeah.
And then, like you said, you come play Tennessee, which we were talking about hottest games ever the other day when LSU played UCLA. It was so hot in Tiger Stadium, and a lot of people say that Monday night game against Tennessee was just brutally hot. You were on the field, so
yeah, Monday night it was hot. Great field, and I think for Coach Miles, for I guess his deficiencies as far as like X's and O's and things of that nature. One thing that I can say about a Coach Miles' team is this, that when the ball rolled out on that field, the other team wasn't just going to whoop us. And you're going to play 4 quarters. You're going to be prepared physically and mentally to play those ball games. Now, at the end of the game, whatever play call that he does, it can affect it. But I guarantee you're going to be in a dogfight because of the way we prepared every single day at practice.
Well, I think that's what made it frustrating at times because, yes, there were occasions in which Les Miles' teams got beat by a lot of points, but not often.
No, not often.
And when they did lose, it was always a case of if we would just get a little more creative on offense. You know, losing to Alabama in Tiger Stadium in overtime, 20-13. Losing to them in 2012, 21-17. I mean, just could not score enough points.
Right,
you know, the Florida game. Yeah. Tebow came in. That was a year after you left, I think. Saturday night, Tiger Stadium. Place is going ballistic. They lose 13-3. You know, so a lot of those big games in which LSU lost national championship 21-0. They just didn't score enough points.
Right.
And that's what got frustrating because you felt like you probably had the personnel.
Oh yes.
Just the scheme and some of the stubbornness.
If Coach Miles would have changed his offense, probably still be here. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Because he can recruit at a high level. He still would have been here.
Could always recruit, could always connect with families and kids and everything. Look, his legacy has changed a bit in the last few years. Some news has happened. Some wins have been vacated. The vacating of the win thing is always kind of hollow to me because I think Nick Saban's first year at Alabama, there was like a book scandal in which some players got some books for free or something. And so they vacated his 7 wins, but every time they put his record up, they never vacated those 7 wins. And they always put it. So it's just kind of.
I mean, did books affect the winning of the football game?
Right, exactly.
It's like Reggie Bush with the Heisman. Well, he's the Heisman Trophy winner.
This Vidal Alexander, he was after you, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
offensive lineman.
Right.
I liked Vidal. I enjoyed covering him. But, you know, so they vacate these wins and everything. But Les Miles, had you guys ready to play, right?
Always.
You weren't flat.
No. Now we may have been tired later in the year
right.
because our practices were so long. But other than that, physically and mentally, you can be ready to play. Coach Moffitt, our summer conditioning program, obviously he had us mentally ready with the 110s and all the different gases we used to run and the way we lifted. So we were always physically and mentally prepared every single game.
Yeah. Well, his record was amazing. I did hear, like before they played Alabama in the national championship, that it was like a boot camp, that they were just pounding heads every day.
Oh, yeah.
And before bowl games, they would do the same, and they'd have dead legs sometimes. You know?
We would, but we didn't miss any tackles. We were going to tackle.
Well, in your time there, let's see. Smash Miami 40-3.
Yes, my freshman year. Yep.
Crushed Notre Dame and Brady Quinn and Charlie Weiss.
In the Sugar Bowl.
Jamarcus.
That's what got Jamarcus drafted #1.
And then, obviously, national championship, 2007.
Smashed Ohio State.
Beanie Wells had me nervous. 70-yard run right off the bat. You're all losing 10-0.
We were.
Came back.
But we didn't. we weren't shaking at all. I think we were still, that game, when he scored, we were still in an out-of-body experience. The national championship game is probably the only game that I don't remember fully. It's the craziest thing ever. Like, even I don't remember the locker room before the game, because when you walked out, when you ran out the tunnel, it was an out-of-body experience. And even on the defense, when he scored that touchdown, it almost felt like we wasn't there yet. It was the weirdest thing. I think it was so much adrenaline being in your backyard, but obviously we settled down and ended up winning that football game.
Your best game ever. You've got amnesia. That's.
I know, right? I know. That's it. Like, we didn't. It almost felt like we wasn't out there until he kind of got settled in. I remember Glenn Dorsey, the great Glenn Dorsey, before the game, we used to watch the team warm up, And, Jock, when I tell you Ohio State's offensive linemen were some large human beings, like gigantic. And I remember Glenn looked at me and he looked at the trainer. He said, man, I need some more tape. And he took about 2 more rolls of tape, rolled up his gloves. He said, because I'm going to be in for a fight. We've never seen old linemen that big in our life. Yeah. And I think we had to get adjusted to that, but they weren't like SEC linemen. They were big. SEC linemen were mean, nasty, athletic, and quick. But these guys were just big and took up a lot of space. But once we got a hold of it and realized, wait, guys, we're in a football game. We got to play. It's just like riding a bicycle. And we got used to it. Well, LSU played a famous game against Ohio State back in Tiger Stadium in 1987, a 13-13 tie before they had overtime. And I remember, I think the LSU guys said the same thing. These guys are huge on the line and so forth. And then finally in 2008, even when you had an off year at 7-5, you go to play Georgia Tech, who had a very complicated, hard-to-defend offense. Jordan Jefferson played a very good game, and you crushed them. Jonathan Dwyer, the running back, was an ACC Player of the Year. They ran the triple option. Even though we won the game, it was still frustrating to win that game. Because you saw your potential. We saw our potential. We beat them 40-3. They didn't cross the 50-yard line, and they ran through people offensively all year long. So we saw the potential, but winning the 40-3 was bittersweet because that was a lot of our seniors' last game. But also, man, the games we should have won that we didn't. In Arkansas, we lost on the last play. Yeah. We went to overtime with Alabama that year when Julio Jones was a freshman. So Georgia kind of got off on the wrong foot. Interception for a touchdown first play of the game. And so, it's a few games that slipped away that year. I think the most, if we would have did what we were supposed to do, we probably would have lost 2 games a year at the most. Because Ole Miss kind of handled us that year, and I forgot who else did. And then Georgia it was just got out of hand pretty quickly. Yeah, he lost 5 games that year. We lost to Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, Arkansas, and who was the other one? Let's see. You beat Auburn. You beat South Carolina. Beat South Carolina. Well, here's the media guy right here. Why don't you sing or something real quick here? I don't know. You have your Johnny Cash voice. I can't. I hear the train coming. I can't do that. All right. Who else did we lose to? Well, give me a second here. We won the bowl game. I'm going to have to make a net. Okay, here we go. 2008. Okay, who did we lose to? Florida. Oh, yeah. That was bad. Yeah. We weren't going to beat Florida. That was a CBS. Yeah. That was terrible. That was terrible. Who was the defensive back who knocked the ball straight up in the air? Ja Eugene, and the guy caught it. I thought it was McCray. I don't know who. Yeah, it was Danny. 44. Yeah, it was Danny. Yeah, we weren't gonna beat them that day. Then the guy punted the ball into the end. Tequila Spikes had a pick six. Brandon Spikes. Yeah. We weren't going. He is related to Tequila Spikes, but we weren't gonna win that game. So I'd say 2 games that were definite losses that year, or 3 games probably was Florida. Ole Miss beat us pretty good in Georgia. So 3 losses. Yeah, for sure. I didn't mean to end on the 2008 season. Let's talk, but that's life, right? That's life. Ups and downs. That's right. So I really appreciate you coming down. You, Jock. Thank you, man. Darry Beckwith, catch him on your local broadcast, and tell your friends about Jock Talk and this conversation. We'll see you later.